Hi everybody, this is Jelveh, and I'm here to make one of my turtle beads for the Beads of Courage for the ISGB. I hope you're doing well. Here we go. So here I'm using, I usually make my turtles with silver glass, but as you know with Beads of Courage you can't use silver glass. Because it's not good for the kids to touch. So here I'm using, I think it's, let's see, sediment, and I have some deep black for some dots. I have a little bit of pale amber, and a little bit of ivory. So here we go. I'm just going to use a 3/32 mandrel. Oh, I'm sorry, not a 3/32. This is a 1/16, and I have on here the bead release of, let's see, Ultra Blue Sludge from Aerosprings. So, and as you know, you have to make sure that it's all nice and dry. Okay, so let's get started with, first I'm gonna go ahead and pull a tiny bit of stringer out of this glass. There we go. This is just for the eyes. You can do the eyes any color. I just made another one that the eyes were blue in. And you can make the body any color. I have some purple, getting ready to do some purple in a second. So I just want some little small dots out of black or any color you like. And here we go. I'm going to turn this up a little bit. I'm filming this with 2 different videos, and later I'm going to be editing it. So if you see any strange cuts, I'm so sorry about that. But, you know, just learning the new life of teaching online. And here we go. So I'm just going to make a really nice size gather of glass here. I just let it melt on its own, kind of back on itself by holding the glass rod at an angle. And then when I'm ready, I'm just gonna kind of make a large bead out of it. And there we go. There we go. Sediment works for this, and so does ivory. Dark ivory is a good candidate. I made one earlier that was out of silver pink. I don't know if you guys remember that color. I think it's 255. A factory. But this one's sediment. So I'm going to turn this down a little bit because I'm screaming hot. I want you guys to be able to see both views, and I'll watch this, and I hope that it's still in focus. Here we go. So I'm just going to make the bead kind of like a nice little round, and then I'm going to take my marber, and I'm just going to kind of push this down a little bit. So now it looks like this, if you can see that here. It has a little bottom, and even better, you could flatten that bottom on your table marber, or if you have a torch marber too, but make sure that it's straight. So this is kind of the look you're going for. And one good thing about sediment and a lot of these really pretty glasses that have some reactions in them is that they make all kinds of nice little variegations in the glass, which gives you a more of a natural look, especially if you're making them without silver glass. So one of the things that I like to do here before we go on is, if you notice, this area is now less glass, and this area looks like the shell. This is where the shell is going to be. So I'm going to add more glass around the bottom of this and flatten it some more, only because I don't want the width of the glass that's on the back of this turtle, on the bottom of this turtle, to be too close to the width of the mandrel. I need it to be at least 2-3 times larger. I don't want the bead to break or crack or have any, you know, too weak of an area there. So I'm just going to add more glass. Same color is good. You can choose your colors. You can look at some real pictures, or, you know, like some of the other ones. And one of the things that happens when I do this, did you see this little area push up? So my point is, by melting this glass just in the right places, I push it up a little bit and make a little lip there. And then when I look back at the back, do you see how there's not enough of a lip there? I will go ahead and add more glass, and then I'll melt. And when I push it up, while it's still pretty melted, I get this little lip around. And that lip signifies where the shell, you know, ends and begins, kind of a thing. So I just want to push that glass in when it's really hot and give myself a little bit of a lip there. See? There we go. You see how that came up? Now, if you don't get enough of a look like that, which I think it's really important to have, if you want to make the little guy look more authentic, if you could see that, you could also use your trusty knife, and if the areas aren't working, use your mandrel as a place to keep your knife straight against. So first heat up the area really well, and then use your knife, but push against the mandrel instead of pushing against the glass, and just like put little tiny indentations in the glass. Okay, so now we have the shell, the bottom of the shell. Now here I'm going to heat it up again, and I'm going to hold it this way so you guys can see. There we go. Alright, so now I'm going to take our pale ivory stringer and start working on the actual shell itself. So, sorry, my hands are a little bit shaky. I'm going to have to use my creation station. So first thing you want to do is you want to make a bunch of dots all the way down in the middle of the turtle. Pretty good sized dots, I say a couple of millimeters or more. And so almost like giving your turtle a mohawk, if you will. And then now just start from here, and you don't want to melt these in yet. You want to melt them in so they push against each other. So you have to put them in between one another like that. And then you can turn your mandrel around a little bit like I did. Be careful when you do that, and get a better access to this side. So you have that one long of stringer dots, of dots in the middle, and then you put dots in between those, and you go around. And then you get closer to finishing. So here you just put them in where you can. You know, the shell eventually stops on its own anyway. And that's what's happening here with the glass dots too. So just put in a couple. Nothing really crazy, but remember. And the way we do our turtle is that his head's going to be on one end of this, and his tail is going to be on the other end. But we wanted all of the dots to be put on first, very carefully. And then we want all of the dots to start being melted together very carefully. And you know, he does have a bottom shell. We just can't see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some dots to his bottom. And so when he's held, you know, like a little flower. All right, so now we're going to melt him down. Here we go. Don't be too hasty about it, but you all know how to make a dot bead. When you make dot beads that they melt together and they become triangles, right? So this is the same thing, except for these will push against each other like hexes. And that's kind of the look of a turtle's shell. I'm not a turtle expert or turtle maker expert by any means. In the past, I've made them for shows and for Christmas and for earrings. I like this particular shape for a pendant, so then it's hanging on you like this, and it looks like you're, you know, having a turtle crawl across you, where most other turtles are going kind of the other way. All right, so I got a little too melted here when I was trying to show you something, and I lost a little bit of my turtle's shapes. So I can go in here and kind of touch where I want him to have a little bit of shape. And then I'll melt that in again. But glass, and I don't know if you remember this, has a habit of remembering what you do to it. So as this melts, you'll get a little line there, and it'll still give the impression of some kind of a stop and go kind of a thing between sort of like where the seam of the turtle's shell is. So now we got the shell finished. At this point, you can add you know, more dots, less dots. I'm just going to leave him simple for the demo. So I'm just going to do his head now. First, I'll do the head. It's the biggest one. Whoops. And then we'll do the other pieces. And I'm going to leave the fat end for his bottom and his tail. And then I'm going to use this part for his head. The head is really kind of interesting. You have to heat up the area the head's going to because you want a really good bond. But you also want to just drop the glass there and then stay for a while in this kind of a little bit of a weird position. And then kind of let your dot get bigger and maybe twist around a little bit and kind of get rid of the glass rod. And at this point, you have this little head kind of hanging out. Sometimes I like to take the cold rod back to it and heat it up and pull it out a little bit. And this, I like doing this because this will bring the face up to the neck where I want it, because I like their faces to be up and kind of to the side a little bit. I don't know if you could see that. And then here you can crack this glass off if it was cold enough. If it wasn't, you can just melt it off. Looks like it wasn't. There we go. All right, so you've got his head back, and I think maybe he needs another dollop of little glass right here for his face. There we go. There we go. And then you can just let gravity bring his head back a little bit. So that gives us the neck. I don't know if you can see that pretty easily there. I like the neck to be kind of out and to the side, almost like a little bit of a conversation or a look. You can still move that over some if you want, and just be careful. There we go. Okay, so where we have this turtle, and now I want to give him some indentations for where his eyes are eventually going to go while I work on the rest of them and keep the bottom pretty nice and even. So when you do the eyes, try to remember He looks different than we do. So, and then he's looking up at us. I don't know if you can see that, right? The other thing that's kind of interesting is that, remember that whole thing about glass that remembers, sediment is one of those colors that if you make cuts and creases into it, it will melt back, but the impression of that cut will stay there. So I'm going to push his head down a little bit because I think he's too far up, and then I'm going to give him a mouth, a smiling mouth. See? So if he's looking at me, there's his eyes and there's his smiling mouth. Do you see that? And there's his neck. So let's get him some heat. Always heat up your mandrel too, because the heat travels through the glass bead. Okay, so he's got his head. His bottom looks like it's pretty clean. Let's see. It's got a pretty straight bottom, so he's going to be able to sit nicely against someone's chest, like so. Hello, there it is. All right, so now we're going to give him some feet. Oops. Oh. Jelveh burns on camera. The other day there was a spider on me on camera. Here we go. So with the feet, I just take and put a little drop of glass at the four corners of this circle, as it were. Well, you ask yourself, how does a circle have four corners? Well, if you consider the neck as a side of a square, then you can put these guys down in like that. I don't know if that makes sense or not. The other thing that I like about putting the feet down this way is because then you can heat them all up and kind of flatten them one at a time to where you want them to go. Does that make sense? Do you see how they are now? And then you can just set him down, and now he's got feet. Woohoo! Yay, this guy's kind of cute. He's kind of big, I like him. So now he's going to need to have a little tail. Tails are kind of funny on turtles. Some have them, some don't. I imagine they do. I think it's cute if they do for the kids. So you could just put a thing of glass here, let it cool. And I actually didn't do that very well, so I'm going to have to melt it really well. You want it to be melted to the body pretty well. You don't want this thing to come off. So then I'm going to just attach here and come out and pull. I think I get to a point that I like it, and then burn it off. There we go. There it is. And then he's got a little tail, a little pointy tail. He can be, finished. This could be his, his debut. But remember that smile that we gave him? If we melt that somewhat, parts of that smile will get, will stay. But I don't think we need to melt it. I'll show you in another one that I made earlier. So this is how you make a turtle. Sure, you can make darker color ones, blue ones. Here we go. And as my friend says, put something behind it so we can see the finished part. Woo. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to heat this girl up and put her in the kiln. Bye-bye.